Happy Wednesday, my friends. It is Nancy Matthews with Women's Prosperity Network, and we are here today for the Be Real, Get Real podcast. So I want to start off by saying good morning, everybody. Thank you for stopping your scroll and joining us for this broadcast. And I promise that if you can pause now and sit tight for a couple minutes, about 15 minutes. I'm going to be in a conversation with Regena as we talk about turning mess into success. And I don't know about you, but I have had a messy life. Have you had a messy life? Go ahead and put it in the chat, a messy life. And you know what? Is life supposed to be perfect? Like, how do we learn if things aren't messy? As part of what I think about. And so go ahead, show some love in the chat and join us for this amazing conversation today. So for the Be Real, Get Real podcast, we're about sharing real stories of real women who are making a difference in the world. And it's Women's History Month. Regena Rosa Celeste is definitely doing just that. So it is my pleasure to bring to you Regena Rosa Celeste. Welcome, my friend.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
I am delighted to be with you. Regena and I have known each other for 13 years, I think.
Yeah, it's weird to think about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember how we first met, but it was around the time I was just starting Women's Prosperity Network. Mm-hmm. And we met through networking. And needless to say, it's been a very beautiful and strong friendship over the years. And I've so enjoyed being a part of your journey, sharing it with you and seeing, like, girl, you've been through some messes.
I have.
And we'll talk about a little bit of that today. But when I look back on some of the things that you've experienced and endured, your resilience from a place of power and love is extraordinary.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Resilience from a place of power, like internal power that you harness, and moving forward in a spirit of love. So Regena, as I mentioned, she is known as the Internal Peace Revolutionist, right? She is an extraordinary real estate agent. She works with women, conscious women investing, and she guides people to have more peace in their lives. So let's dive right in.
Cool.
So Regena, let's talk about one of the messes.
There's so many.
Right?
Which one do I choose?
Which one should we talk about today?
Probably the one that got me to do the work I do now, which is, I think, the most important. Mm-hmm. And that's, you've been with me through most of it, which is incredible. And so just amazing. And I'm so grateful because you've seen me come through a lot. Mm-hmm. And I remember the journey here it was a mess. I mean, it's literally the name of the conversation, turning mess into success. And I did my best. I still do my best to show up with as much love and integrity as I can. And I'm not perfect. So I make mistakes along the way. I butt my head a lot. And I've learned it doesn't always have to be that way. I don't have to suffer my way through prosperity or abundance. And
hold on a second. There was a golden nugget there. We don't have to suffer our way through. So while we go through messes, while we go through challenges, suffering is not a necessary ingredient. That's what I heard.
Yep.
Right.
And for a long time, I think that was the mess, was that I felt like I had to prove it to myself through the pain. I had to prove something. Like I had to prove that if I wasn't drudging through this muddy water and this, awful experience of life, that I wasn't doing it right. And then I realized, like, who created that story? And it was a lot of stories that I was hearing from other places, whether it be family or clients or friends or whoever, like we
Yeah,
all.
television, books, ads, everywhere you turn. And we've been sold this bill that, oh, life is hard and it has to be hard and work hard. And oh my, there's a big difference between hard and effort, right?
Totally.
So effort, we always want to bring effort and energy to what we're doing, but it doesn't have to be struggle. So how did you discover that, you asked yourself that question, who said it's got to be like this? Like, how did you get there?
So I think, the day, and there's probably many situations that happened that made me kind of think of it, but the day that I really got it was I was at a meditation retreat, and this was 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and I was literally on the tail end of a breakup. And that day, something happened, and I was at this retreat, and I thought we had resolved kind of the conversation. I thought we were both in a good place. And the person I was with made a totally different decision than what we discussed. And I got that in life, doesn't matter how much clarity I think I have on something, I could still, it's not about being wrong or right, but the situation could still show up different. And I realized that doesn't dictate, that shouldn't dictate how I feel about myself and how I,
Ooh, that's good.
because
That's really good.
people are going to do what they do. Even if they say they're going to do something different, they might not do it. Right? They say they're going to turn left. I might say I'm going to turn left, and then I end up having to turn right because there's an accident in the road or something happens in life that prevents me from going the way I want to go. And I didn't know at the time, but that was God's way of saying, you got this. And I just remember feeling such a state of my, like, and I had done with your help and a couple other people, like a lot of work around that whole situation and things that were happening related to it. And I remember feeling with the work of some NLP and other things to help me release some negative feelings. I remember feeling like in that moment, I made a decision. It doesn't have to be hard. And I remember feeling like this is almost weird that I don't feel like it has to be hard. I don't know if
Right.
that makes sense. But it was like I'm so used to, until that moment, I was so used to it being a certain way that my mind wanted to take me back there.
Because
But the
it's a habit and it's
it's
what we're familiar with. Well, and I want to dial in on, so you had a breakup, you had a conversation, he said this, I said I'm this, and you thought there was an agreement or understanding, and then being in that place of an agreement had you feel okay with how things were going, whatever was going to happen next, right? So this agreement, which was an external circumstance, right, around all of that, he said, okay, if everything goes just like that, I'm good.
Mhm.
And then things didn't go just like that.
Right. It got pretty messy.
It got pretty messy. And what I heard you say was, rather than finding that the situation being exactly how you planned it to be, to determine your peace, that external thing was determining if I will be happy when this happens, you found another way and said, I am happy, or you found peace. And I know it was a journey and it's not easy, but it takes some space to get there emotionally as we go through it. But I believe this is why you are the internal peace revolutionist. Because if we are allowing our own peace and happiness, our stress and anxiety, if all of those things that we experience internally are conditioned upon what's happening out here, we're always going to be unhappy and let down and frustrated because things don't stay the same.
100%.
Right?
And it's really, I found it's ego. It was my ego that wanted things to be, or wants things to be the same, because then I know the outcome. It's predictable.
Mm.
right? If I know what's coming, I can control the next thing. And so even this morning, I woke up kind of not in a bad mood, but just in a like apathetic mood. Like life is so life, some days it's up, some days it's
Yeah.
down, some days it's sideways. And it was like this reminder that like nothing stays the same. And yet it's okay. Like I went for a walk, I exercised, I moved my body, I did some meditation, I grabbed my spiritual tools, and I got to work, spiritual work.
Yeah.
And then next thing I knew, my day was going and my mood was changed and I was back to me again. And I think that's life, right? It's like there's this idea that internal peace or happiness comes when you're sitting on a mountain and everything's quiet. And the reality is that's easy to do. It's of course it's peaceful because there's nothing going on. Like anybody can be peaceful when it's peaceful when there's nothing happening, but the
That's
real work.
awesome. It's easy to be peaceful on sitting on the top of a mountain. There's nothing going on. There's no traffic. There's no television. There's no news coming.
Yeah. And I did that. Like I went to an ashram. I lived in a spiritual place and I was seeking that. And then I realized like the real peace is in here. And it's not about what happens in the economy or how much money you make or don't make. Like, I mean, there's plenty of homeless people that are more peaceful and joyful than most.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I remember, and it's just this part of the conversation is reminding me of how my perception or judgment of how things should be and what a good life is. Like, you brought up this piece about, there are people who are homeless who have more internal peace than millionaires. And would they like to change their circumstances of where they live? Maybe, probably. And, we'll have another conversation around all of that. When I worked in a law firm, I was, pretty new in the corporate world. And the attorney I worked with, we helped people who were facing foreclosure and bankruptcy. And I remember this couple coming in who were about to lose their house. They were going to be filing for bankruptcy. They had very little. And they sat in my office holding hands as I'm explaining, their options, and this could happen and that could happen. And they just held hands and they said, it's okay. As long as we have each other, our love gets us through anything. And they were the most beautiful human beings, honest, authentic, integrity, peaceful. And it wasn't about material wealth. It was amazing. And they came through that experience, with flying colors. They came out on the other side. They had something that came into their lives that helped them save their house. And so this internal peace part of it is attainable for all of us, but not so easy. So here's my question. And I've had days like this, a little bit like what you talked about the other day. Like I have my morning routine and my spiritual practices, but every now and then I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Yesterday sucked. What I got on my calendar today sucks. So and we know it's kind of like eating healthy and doing good things for your body. We know what to do, but there's something that happens occasionally, or more often than not for some, that stops us from doing those things that we know are going to help us. If you're feeling depressed and let down, and maybe you lost your job, or you've been, in real estate and your industry's closing, or whatever's happening, it could feel hopeless. What would you say to someone who's really going through a tough time? And it may sound like we're saying, oh, just sit on a mountaintop. That's not what this is.
Right.
What would you offer?
I would offer two things. One is to feel the feelings, which is not easy to do, but think about a tunnel, and the only way to get through a tunnel is to go through it. And the other is to allow support, whether it's with friends or a coach or coaches or community, could be church or synagogue, whatever a person feels is their way of being supported. I think that's really important.
Agreed.
And I find sharing with a friend or sharing, like, it's really, to me, I've learned it's a choice. peace is a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember one day you and I were on a call, and it wasn't a huge situation. It was just something was bothering me about the situation. And you
I
said,
remember.
"Where's the peace?" in the Zoom chat. And I can't tell you, Nancy, how many times I've said that to myself with your voice. Where's the peace? And then
Yeah.
I start laughing because I'm like, how important is it that I'm sitting in traffic and this jerk is, in front of me and cutting me off or whatever. And I just start laughing and I let him go in front of me. And I think, you know what? I want to be happy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or something bothers me. Someone says something and I'm holding on to it for like an hour. And then I'm like, okay, this is really, I don't need to be having a crappy day because someone said something to me or.
And the fascinating part of that dynamic is that person who said something crappy, they're going about their day just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whose joy gets stolen when we get mad at somebody else?
Exactly.
Right? It's amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. And look, we've got wonderful people in the chat. So welcome, Kathy, Carol, Denise. Rose is here. Tim Gillette's in the house. Woo, woo, yeah. Yeah. So if you have a question about finding some more peace for yourself, stick it in the chat and we'll do our best to address it. We'll be on for a few more minutes. One other piece I want to touch before we wrap today. And you talked about sharing, welcome support, receive support. I got to tell you that when I have been in my lowest of lows, and this is something I do, and people who know me well now recognize it, when I'm upset, angry, or going through a difficult time, I actually withdraw. And I might feel ashamed of the dark thoughts that I'm having or embarrassed. And especially if you're someone who has a reputation to uphold. Actually, we all have a reputation we think we need to uphold. And that if I have, disempowering or negative types of thoughts, then what will people think of me? And so how do you deal with that? Because I can't be the only one that has gone through this, that when I'm feeling down or upset, I withdraw. So I don't share. I don't ask for help.
Well, and I appreciate that you mentioned that, Nancy, because I think that shows that we're all human, which we are, right? And I think this idea that we're always supposed to be on, like we're actors and actresses, like life is not perfect for anybody. And I think I'm with you. I mean, we're both Aquarians, right? And so I get that retreating. And sometimes that is part of the journey. Is it's really important to also, like when I speak about giving ourselves permission to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Like making space for the dips, and I realized that today when I was in that space, I woke up and I thought, man, I don't really have time in my day today to pout. And then
I'm too busy to pout. I like that.
Right. Like I was like, oh, I have like meeting after meeting. And then I was like, I had to quiet my mind and just say, right now you're exercising, right now you're moving, and you have 30 minutes. Let that be enough right now.
Just get present and really break it down into micro pieces. I love that. And the other thing that I've recognized over time is because I had periods of withdrawal and then coming out. And sometimes, like you said, the withdrawal time is about getting in touch with those feelings. And I also know that I must have those practices in place and kind of push myself to tap into it, because staying in the darkness is not good for anybody. So that's why you set yourself up for success. So, and I know you do a lot of work with people. You have some amazing programs that combined mind, body, spirit in a beautiful, beautiful way. So I want to encourage everybody to get in touch with Regena. You can see her text number right there. So reach out to her, because just like, I'm going to equate this to money, just like when your credit is good and you've got a lot of savings in the bank and you're thriving, that's the time to go apply for credit cards so that you have credit lines when you need them, because when you need them, they're not going to give them to you. So it's about preparing in advance for what could happen. So that's why you want to work with someone like Regena to get those practices and tools. Like, what if, Regena, you woke up feeling that way today and you didn't have these practices in place? Maybe you would have missed an appointment. Maybe you would have, not shown up because you didn't have the system in place to support you during, the hiccup.
Well, and it's so true, because like an hour before our call, my computer literally stopped working. Like, it just stopped.
Okay.
And I was like, hello?
Okay.
What do I do now? And in the past, I would have freaked out, and I would have just been like, oh my God, I have calls and I have a show today. And my mind just would have went down this total squirrel path. And today I did that. I said, okay, just what can you do right now? I got present. I started breathing. I said, well, I have a laptop. Worst case scenario, I have a laptop. I can text the people that I'm supposed to connect with. And I just very methodically got present and clear. What can I control right now? And then within a few minutes, it took way longer than it should have, but it took like 25 minutes. My computer started slowly like waking up. I was like, I have no idea how to explain it. Mercury's not in retrograde. So
I know.
I don't know, but I think it's these little invitations that we get to. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say too, it's connecting. It's being connected to something bigger.
Yes.
And I think that is something you're always reminding, which I think is so powerful. Like those moments of disconnection and those dark moments, as awful as they feel, it's just a reminder what the contrast is of feeling connected to source and to something bigger and greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they happen.
Yeah, because without rain, you don't appreciate the sun. And when I was pretty early in my spiritual expansion, so this goes back to like 2008, and I've always been very spiritual. But in 2008, I took a flight to some event. I think it was a kind of a spiritual meditation retreat in Las Vegas. And I flew on Spirit Airlines, and I was like, oh, isn't that magical? I'm going to the spiritual retreat. And the gentleman who was guiding us during this weekend, he said something that really shifted my whole perspective of what is good, what is bad, what is pretty, what is ugly. And he said, we talk about the sun and a sunny day. It was like, oh, it's such a beautiful sunny day. And then, oh, it's raining and cold and it's not a good day. And then there's, a fire, and then there's a tornado, and then there's, beautiful waves at the beach and fish. And he said, when you start to judge the parts of something, you're forgetting that it's all part of the whole. The earth is a magnificent creation. It's the entirety of the earth, and judging the parts of it takes away from the integrity and the power of the whole. So that was a big change, like, shifter for me. Yeah. So connecting to that something bigger. So when contrast happens, when your computer doesn't work right before you're getting ready to do a live interview, and it's just part of the process. And when we can accept that rather than resist it, that's where solution comes.
Yeah. And I don't like the word test. It is, in a way, it's like I test myself, because it's like I ask myself, where is that resiliency, right? Where is that calm and peace in those moments?
Where's the peace, right? Where's the peace?
Right? And so it's like I could get upset and I could like start throwing things like I would have in the past, or I could realize it didn't do me good then. It's not going to make a difference now. It's not going to help the computer start working. So what can I do? I can find a better solution, and then solution comes. And it always happens that way when we, like you said, when we relax the need to control, when we relax the need to be on top of things. My favorite saying, and I think I got this from Tasha Chen, was go take a nap.
Yeah.
When your world is crumbling, go take a nap.
Yeah.
And it sounds so silly, but it's like, go relax, go to the beach, go do something that fills your soul, and let the universe figure it out. And it always does.
Look at this. And I agree. My motto is like when I'm in that space or I can't figure something out, I go take a shower because water also cleanses me. And I have this note. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I choose to be more still the busier I get.
I love that.
And I have that right on my computer monitor because when I go, oh my God, well, that's right. I choose to be more still the busier I get. And that's what you did today a couple of times. Beautiful.
And it's still early, so we'll see how many times today I have to do that.
There are some days where it's just like that.
Exactly.
Definitely. All right, Miss Regena, thank you so much for being in my life, for being my friend, and for being a light and a light worker, to guide people to that internal peace, which you can access at any time. So if you're feeling a little bit of, or a lot of it, of turbulence, struggle, you were not meant to feel that all the time. You don't have to feel suffering and struggling all the time. There's another way. And Regena's here to show you how to get there. So please do reach out to Regena. I love you, my friends. Thank you for making time for us today.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone tuning in for the Be Real, Get Real podcast. We will be back next week with another delicious conversation. Until next time, get out there, make a difference, be the one. And remember, we may not have it all together, but
together we have it all.
Together we have it all. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a beautiful day.